Welcome to Invest Insights. I'm Abby Melone. I'm joined today by Raul Moas, the director from Miami of the Knight Foundation. The Knight Foundation is a national foundation with roots in 26 communities where the Knight brothers once produced newspapers, including its headquarters city, Miami, where it supports entrepreneurs and artists who are building the city's future. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel to watch more insights like this. Raul, one of the pillars of the Knight Foundation is journalism. And although information is always important, now during COVID-19, everyone is just craving the right information, how to stay safe, how to save their business. I know that our Invest Insights platform has seen an immense response because we wanted to give a mouthpiece to leaders right now, in addition to our annual report, because while national media is all well and good, really muddies the water on a local level. How is the Knight Foundation observing journalism? What innovations are you seeing? What is the unique role it's playing right now?
Absolutely. I think journalists are kind of at the front line of this crisis alongside healthcare workers and policymakers in responding to the needs of community. And so healthcare workers are physically kind of healing us. But journalists are equally important in giving us objective, truth, fact-based information that we then can make decisions on as community, as individuals, as families, that we can respond to. So having trust and confidence in those institutions is critical. We're seeing kind of the innovations that were present before in local news in particular, so namely nonprofit newsrooms and different funding mechanisms and membership collectives that were helping bring revenue into news organizations kind of really be highlighted now. We're seeing a newfound appreciation for the role of local news, whereas before I think folks might have said, you know what, this is important conceptually to a healthy republic and a healthy democracy. We're living out today exactly what that means, what it means to have a paper in your hometown that covers what's happening in a time of unprecedented crisis, honestly. And so we're equally kind of enthused at the fact that so many stakeholders at all levels of society are looking at news in a different way, are looking at journalism in a different light, particularly local journalism. And also standing right by our grantees, trying to figure out what it is that we can be of help with in the moment as it relates to their work, advancing informed and engaged communities, advancing new models of journalism in a very kind of uncertain time, right? In a time when they're in the field, almost building the plane as they're flying it.
Another one of your pillars is supporting arts. And Miami is an interesting place where its arts community is relatively young. We've watched downtown grow with the amount of museums and theaters in recent years. And while it still is not robust as other maybe more historical cities like New York, London, it seems that we've had an itch that has been scratched. And now that it's taken away from us, we can't gather in places. Yeah. How are you observing the arts in the COVID-19 pandemic? And how do you see it maybe shifting once we start reopening and allowing to go back in these spaces?
Yeah, Miami's a really young town, right? 120 something years old, really 70 years since things started kind of coming together and taking off. And really in the last 10, 15 years, the investments that we've chosen to make as a community in the arts, which are unparalleled to any other American city in that period of time, have really kind of awoken in us this realization that we really enjoy world-class art in all its modalities year-round. And so I love taking my kid to PAM for different reasons. He loves it because he gets to run up and down steps and play outside, and the view is great. I get an awesome kind of time with him. But then PAM itself as a cultural venue, as in terms of the arts that it brings in all, again, modalities, provokes in us a sense of understanding between neighbors that isn't commonplace, or it's hard to come across. So the arts have a unique way of provoking in us both a sense of attachment to place, a sense of empathy, a sense of understanding. And we as Miami kind of really liked that. We came to realize that these investments are really important to the health of community. And thinking through kind of what this means, we've seen a lot of our arts grantees kind of contact us asking for support in either repurposing their grants for digital, so going digital first, or reimagining the way that they were going to live out some sort of work in this new context. And I think that there's obvious safety kind of public health concerns that we need to talk about and think about as we reopen, particularly for institutions that have kind of a lot of density, thinking kind of theater and all that. Beyond that, the exciting piece, if we can kind of call it that, is that a lot of these organizations that were already messing with and toying with and experimenting with and piloting different ways of reaching audiences through different mediums are now having to do that in real time. And so you're seeing some really amazing innovations come out of the arts. The kind of a really cool kind of analogy here, or kind of way of looking at this, is we're seeing organizations that originally might have thought about simply transposing the physical into the digital by live streaming a concert or by taking a collection and digitizing it. And they're going, maybe that's digital 1.0. They're not going digital 2.0 or 3.0. They're building for natively digital environments and for natively digital kind of consumers, if you will, of their work. And so it's a whole different realm of product, it's a whole different experience that we're seeing arts institutions and artists build, because the times have called on them to do so. So really seeing the innovations go beyond the just streaming something and going to building specifically for digital.
Innovation is also a fiber of the entrepreneurial being. And the Knight Foundation supports entrepreneurs in the communities that you are engaged in. Andre, I think about startups and its importance in diversifying an economy overall, but also in terms of getting us out of economic crises. How are you looking at entrepreneurialism in South Florida? And you had commented before when we were speaking off camera about traditionally being very reliant on tourism, but with the emphasis on supporting startups and entrepreneurial activity, it might better position us in the future. What does that future look like?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's exactly the question that we're posing to community, and that we've been posing for a while. The Knight Foundation's Miami Community Program has been largely centered around entrepreneurship for the last 7 years, not because the foundation is in and of itself an expert on economic development through entrepreneurship, but because we believe it's a way to get to informed and engaged community. We wanted to believe and see and validate that, in fact, a segment of community, a lot of Miamians, want to build high impact, high growth companies. But for a very long time, they felt they couldn't do that here. They had to go to California, they had to go to New York or some other place. And our investments around building the infrastructure of that startup community have really been focused on making the conditions more favorable so that high impact, high growth entrepreneurship can take hold in the city. And you mentioned recovery and kind of entrepreneurs and startups playing an important role in that. That's absolutely right. Net new job creation almost entirely comes from high growth ventures, right? Kauffman Foundation and Revolution Ventures and a bunch of other folks have done a ton of study on this work in terms of where does that net new jobs come from. It also is about resiliency, right? There are some economies that will take a really hard hit because of COVID, and tourism dependent ones might be that, right? Folks, depending on when a vaccine becomes available and the public health crisis subsides, folks may not feel comfortable jumping on a plane as often or going to a hotel and staying there. So what does it look like for the city, not only to diversify its economic structure, because in and of itself that makes us more resilient, but at the human level, at the personal level, make it so that any Miamian who wants to build a high impact company here in South Florida in their native town can do so. And I think that's really one of the calls that we're gonna be seeing and hearing in the coming weeks and months is, how does Miami build forward? How does it bounce forward, right? It's not about bouncing back to the status quo of before. It's not about what used to be. You mentioned kind of everything has changed and nothing has changed at all. And I think that's incredibly true for entrepreneurship as well. Everything has changed in terms of where opportunity looks like, but nothing has changed in that there are entrepreneurs who are seeing opportunities today. And with that opportunity comes jobs, comes wealth creation, and comes greater resiliency. So we're absolutely kind of still focused on hearing out the entrepreneur. What is that they perceive to be important? Where do they see opportunity? And then convening folks to say, hey, there's a thing here, right? There's a voice here, a trend here. There's a group of people here that are doing something differently. They're doing something that's constructive to the well-being of our community. We should all listen.
Very good. And should our viewers want to find out more information about the Knight Foundation, where would you direct them?
They can check out knightfoundation.org, and we're on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Just search for Knight Foundation. We're the first hit.
Excellent. Well, thank you again. That was Raul Moas, the director for Miami for the Knight Foundation. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel to watch more insights like this. I'm Abby Melone, and you've been watching Invest Insights. Thank you.